Okay, hello and welcome. My name is Abby Chen. I'm an associate director at the of the strategy and partnerships team at the Washington Student Council. I have the pleasure of serving as your guide today for our webinar all about transfer in Washington State. Today's roadmap is a little bit of a couple different options to learn about different perspectives of transfer. We're going to go ahead and start the day with some research findings from our research team from a recent report. We will have a brief Q&A that follows that, so please feel free to think about what questions that you have. We'll have a little bit of a transition, really thinking about the assets and opportunities that continue to exist in our state. And then we'll be able to hear from a panel of folks who are really thinking about and implementing practice work to the benefit of transfer students in our state. I want to make a note that today's webinar is being recorded, and a recording and copies of the presenter slides and reference reports will be shared after the webinar. And so please just be aware that those resources will be made available. I want to take a moment to overview some of our engagement guidelines. As I mentioned, there will be a brief Q&A section after the research findings. We would love for you to use the Q&A tool, not the chat, to be able to do this. So as you can see on this slide, do use the chat to introduce yourselves. We'd love to have a sense of who's in the room. Share your name and your affiliation. If you also feel like sharing more, share a sentence about why you're here and why you care about transfer students. And then remember that we want to use the Q&A option, which should be on your menu screen, to add questions throughout. If we don't get a chance to answer every question, we might not, and that's okay. We'll be taking notes and we'll do our best to follow up. And would also encourage you, we'll link reports throughout to also go ahead and reference those reports directly to find additional information. So with that, I am really excited to get us started and introduce our first two presenters, who are colleagues of mine from WSAC's research team, Aria Kukeja and Rebecca Byrne. Aria and Rebecca, it's all yours. We'll switch the spotlights over.
All right, thanks so much, Abby. Yes, good morning, everyone. Again, Rebecca Byrne here. I am an assistant director of research at WSAC. I'll be presenting with my co-author and research analyst, Aria Kukreja, on the 2025 transfer efficiency update. To set the stage for this version of the transfer efficiency update, we go back to 2005, when Washington State Legislature requested that WSAC report progress on efficiency of Washington's transfer pathway. This report is meant to monitor progress on the indicators, describe development of additional transfer degrees, and provide other data on improvements in transfer efficiency. Specifically, we look at the efficiency of vertical transfer, which we define as when a student in a transfer associate degree or simply transfer degree program at a Washington Community and Technical College moves on to a Washington four-year institution. Transfer degree programs include coursework that applied to most bachelor's degrees at Washington's public four-year institutions and are intended for transfer to a four-year institution. Knowing what is working for transfer students to complete their transfer and bachelor's degrees will also help Washington meet the educational attainment goal of at least 70% of adults earning a post-secondary credential. And then we can move to the next slide. For this presentation, we'll look at a few of the key findings from the report. We start with outcomes for vertical transfer efficiency at the four-year institutions. We'll look at the share of bachelor's degree earners at public four-year institutions and independent colleges of Washington, or ICW. Students with transfer degrees made up the largest share of transfer bachelor's degree earners at both the public four years and the ICW institutions. And at the public four-year institutions, this still holds up when we look at bachelor's degree earners by race and ethnicity. Again, students with transfer degrees were the largest share of transfer bachelor's degree earners in each group. We examined the graduation rates of CTC transfers at public four-year institutions and see students with transfer degrees had a higher graduation rate within 4 years of transferring compared to other CTC transfer students. Again, we see for most race and ethnicity groups, students with transfer degrees are more likely to graduate within 4 years of transferring. Next, we'll look at key findings at the CTC level. We look at the trend of enrollment for credential-seeking students, which has increased since fall 2019. We look at retention rates for CTC transfer degree-seeking students, which has also increased by 6% percentage points. And finally, we'll discuss transfer degree attainment. We'll look at the share of associate degrees awarded, most of which are transfer degrees. Again, these degrees are intended for transfer to a 4-year school. And then we can go to the next slide. So we're starting at the end of the vertical transfer journey, and this is an end outcome, looking at the share of transfer bachelor's degree earners at 4-year institutions. On the left, we have public institutions, and on the right, we have independent colleges of Washington member campuses. Looking at the overall share of bachelor's degree earners for the 2021-2022 academic year, we see in the purple column transfers who earn bachelor's degrees made up 40% of bachelor's degree earners at public 4-year institutions and 25% of bachelor's degree earners at ICW member campuses. The gold column in each of the charts are the share of transfers who entered with a transfer degree. And we see 24% of public bachelor's degree earners were transfer students with a transfer degree, and 12% of independent colleges of Washington bachelor's degree earners were transfer students with a transfer degree. We see that pursuing and completing a transfer degree can pay off since students with transfer degrees make up a sizable share of the bachelor's degree earners at 4-year institutions, and particularly at the public institutions. And then we can go to the next slide. And here we're diving a little deeper into the share of transfer bachelor's degree earners. And this is specifically for the public 4-year institutions, and we're looking at it by race and ethnicity. Each column shows the total share of the group that are transfer students. The colors in the column show the share of the group by transfer type. So these transfer types include students who entered the 4-year institution with a transfer degree, those who entered with other CTC degree, which include professional technical degrees, certificates, and apprenticeships, or entered with no CTC degree. The data indicate that traditionally underrepresented students who earn bachelor's degrees are more likely to have entered with a transfer degree prior to coming to the public 4-year compared to other types of transfer. And we do see that these shares vary by race. Among bachelor's degree earners who are transfer students, American Indian, Black, Hispanic, and Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander were more likely to be transfer students with transfer degrees compared to other groups. This shows that transfer pathway, that the transfer pathway to a bachelor's degree may be more accessible to underrepresented students, particularly for those who pursue and complete a CTC transfer degree. And then we can go to the next slide, where we're looking now at the graduation rates. So we just looked at the shares, now we'll look at the graduation rates. At bachelor's degree graduation rates, that is another measure of the vertical transfer efficiency. For these graduation rates, we look at the completion rate within 4 years of transferring to a Washington public institution in the academic year 2017-2018. This is limited to just CTC students who entered as transfers. So here we're really zooming in on students who have completed that vertical transfer piece. The graduation rate is broken out by transfers who entered with a transfer degree, other CTC degree, or no CTC degree. Overall, students who entered with a transfer degree had a higher graduation rate, and you can see this in those first 3 bars. Those with transfer degrees at 80%, other CTC degree at 67% and no CTC degree at 63%. So we can see that students who pursue and complete a transfer degree usually complete a bachelor's degree more efficiently within 4 years of transferring to a Washington public four-year institution. And we see for nearly each racial group, those that enter with transfer degrees had a higher four-year graduation rate, though this again does vary by group. For example, American Indian Alaska Native group, their highest graduation rate was for students who entered with other CTC degree type at 80%, no CTC degree type at 68%, and lastly, those with a transfer degree at 62%. But then if we look at a group like Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander students, the graduation rate for students who entered with a transfer degree is nearly 3 times higher than those who entered with other CTC degrees. Again, those professional technical degrees, certificates, and apprenticeships. So to reiterate, overall, students who complete a transfer degree usually complete a bachelor's degree more efficiently within 4 years of transferring to a Washington public four-year institution. And this holds true for most race and ethnicity groups, though the rates do vary by group. So next, I'll hand it off to Aria to discuss the key findings at the CTC level.
Great, thanks, Rebecca. So I know we've been looking at the four-year institutions, and now we're going to switch gears and look at the students who are seeking to and those who are earning transfer degrees. And I saw a question in the chat about what the transfer degrees are. And just to clarify, the transfer degrees were any of Washington's direct transfer agreement or DTA degrees and any of the Associate of Science for transfer degrees at CTCs. So, returning to what Rebecca had mentioned, these transfer degrees make a difference for students when they enroll in a bachelor's degree program. Most notably, students who entered a public four-year institution with a transfer degree had a higher graduation rate within 4 years of transferring compared to other types of transfer students. At the CTCs, we decided to measure enrollment because it serves as a foundational measure of vertical transfer efficiency, considering that the CTCs provide a type of entry point for students to earn a post-secondary degree and further enrolling in a transfer degree program to earn a bachelor's degree. This figure shows the share of students enrolled in transfer degrees and the number of students enrolled in all associate degrees have increased since fall 2019. In other words, on the x-axis, you can see the fall term and the n, which represents the headcount or number of students enrolled in any type of associate degree, meaning that the degree, meaning that they're in any type of associate degree, meaning professional or technical or transfer degree. And the gold line shows of these associate degree seeking students, the share of those enrolled in transfer degrees. With that said, the share of students with intent to transfer has increased by 10 percentage points since fall 2019. Additionally, while it appears that the percent of students enrolled with the intention of transferring has stagnated in fall 2023 and fall 2024 at 58%, if you look to the ends along the x-axis, you can see that those have changed and they've actually increased, which means that overall more students were not only seeking any type of associate degree during that time, but more students were seeking transfer degrees that would set them on the pathway to engage in a vertical transfer. Next slide, please. When we talk about the vertical transfer pathway or helping students move from a community and technical college to a four-year institution, retention is also a key milestone for students. While enrollment in a CTC can tell us about the students entering the system, retention tells us who's staying on track, especially those students with the goal of transferring to a four-year institution and earning a bachelor's degree. Reiterating what Rebecca had mentioned before, at public four-year institutions, those with transfer degrees are more likely to earn a bachelor's degree within 4 years of transferring. Furthermore, if students transfer before completing their CTC degree, they're less likely to earn a bachelor's degree. This figure shows the retention rates for CTC students by associate degree types, namely transfer or professional technical degrees, from fall their first year to fall their second. So from fall 2019 to fall 2023, the retention rate for transfer students increased by 6 percentage points, from 47% to 53%. For professional technical students, it rose by 5 percentage points, from 53 to 58. So although professional technical students still have a higher overall retention rate, the larger gain was among transfer students. And this is encouraging since students who earn a transfer degree are the transfer students most likely to complete a bachelor's degree once they transfer to a four-year institution within 4 years. Next slide. So we've looked at enrollment and we've looked at retention rates at CTCs, and those retention rates gave us insights into how well students are staying enrolled from one year to the next. Now we're shifting to look at outcomes at CTCs, specifically the share of associate degrees awarded at the community and technical colleges. Again, as Rebecca mentioned earlier, at public four-year institutions, students who transfer with transfer degrees are typically more likely to complete a bachelor's degree after 4 years of transferring. And all of this excludes the ICWs. This shows that earning a transfer degree can be a critical step for students who would like to engage at a vertical transfer from a CTC to a public four-year institution in order to earn a bachelor's degree. This figure shows the share of associate degrees awarded to CTC students that were transfer degrees, broken down by students' race and ethnicity for the 2023-24 academic year. To help orient you, the x-axis lists student race and ethnicity categories along with the total number of associate degrees awarded. The y-axis shows the percentage of all of those associate degrees, meaning professional and technical degrees. It shows the share of those that were transfer degrees for each group. And the gold line shows the share of all associate degrees awarded that were transfer degrees across all associate degree seeking students. Overall, more than 2/3 of associate degrees awarded to CTC students in 2023-24 were transfer degrees. The remaining 1/3 were professional technical degrees. To further clarify this, all transfer degrees are a type of associate degree, but that doesn't mean that all associate degrees are necessarily transfer degrees. So that remaining third are not transfer degrees. When we break this down by race and ethnicity, there are some clear differences. Asian students had the highest share of transfer degrees awarded among the associate degrees that were awarded at 75%. And that was followed closely by students of two or more races at 71%. In contrast, American Indian and Alaskan Native students had the lowest share of just over half of their associate degrees awarded being transfer degrees. These gaps matter because earning a transfer degree is strongly associated with higher bachelor's completion rates. If certain student groups are less likely to earn transfer degrees, they might be less likely to complete a bachelor's degree at a four-year institution. And because transfer degrees are just so closely linked to bachelor's completion, these differences might help us understand which groups of students are more or less likely to stay on that transfer pathway to complete a vertical transfer, but we're looking at this at the CTC level. Next slide, please. And that brings us to our final, that brings us to our final slide. Thank you all for sticking with us throughout this presentation, and we're looking forward to the Q&A. I also just want to mention that many of the figures we covered today, along with any additional details that we didn't get into, can be found in the full report, which we have the QR code up for you for. And it looks like Amy included that link in the chat too. Thank you.
Thank you, Ari and Rebecca. I'm going to help moderate the chat. We're going to spend about maybe 5 to 10 minutes on Q&A. There's a couple questions in the chat asking for some clarification on the percentage of Running Start students or where Running Start students are or aren't included in your analysis. It'd be great if one of you could speak to that.
Yeah. Ari, do you want to start or?
I'm just reviewing the questions. Would you mind?
Okay, yeah. Yes. So for Running Start students, when we're looking at the outcomes at the four-year institutions, we are just looking at students who entered as transfer students. So they would have had some kind of post-secondary credits post-high school before entering the four-year institution. So they are truly entering like as transfer students. So it wouldn't be like a running start direct from high school, into the four-year institution. So in that way, they're not necessarily included like they would typically be in the direct from high school, like entry type. They're not included in that piece for the four-year institutions. And then at the CTCs, when we're looking at that share of enrollment, we're looking at the share of students enrolled in associate degrees, and we are pulling that from the SBCTC enrollment dashboard. So that does not separate out the running start students. So there would be running start students included in that share of the enrollment. So yeah, so that's kind of where they would be included, just because we weren't able to take them out of that piece of the analysis.
Rebecca, thanks so much. I would add that all of the charts in the actual report have pretty clear labels of who's included and who's not, by chart and graph as well. That is one of the most common questions, is what about, how does dual credit play into this? Aria and Rebecca, I know you've both been starting to look through some of the questions that have come in. I think there are a couple different questions. I'm going to direct, I'm going to pause and say, Aria or Rebecca, is there one that you particularly would like to answer? Otherwise, I'll direct another question towards you.
Yeah, I think folks had, well, I guess this is just a kind of clarifying question about that no CTC degree, and what that means and who's included. So again, we're just looking at students who entered the four-year institution as transfer students. So they would have had post-secondary credit after high school. And those who would have entered with no CTC degree are students who so I do have to pause and take back. So we again, like Abby said, we kind of go over this a bit in the report. It's a little bit nuanced. For when we're looking at the share of bachelor's degree earners, the no CTC degree means transfer students who entered without a CTC degree. And it does include students who would have started at a CTC and then transferred to the four-year institution. But it would also include students who may not have touched the CTC system. So in one way or another, they do not have a CTC degree, but they are all entering as transfer students.
Thanks, Rebecca. We have another question that has come through, that is WSAC or anyone looking at the graduation rates of students staying in their CTC where they earn an associate's any type to earn a BAS or BS degree. And we have Summer from State Board, who I'm going to go ahead and have her answer this question.
Yes, thank you. We do in the CTC system, we do track that. We pay pretty close attention to it, not just in terms of the graduation rates, but also the types of students that transfer. Do they stay at their own college, or do they seek a CTC baccalaureate somewhere else? And what were their previous pathways? And well, most of our applied baccalaureates were really designed for students who have completed a workforce technical program, which did not historically have a transfer pathway to be able to go on to earn a bachelor's degree. We do have Bachelor of Science in Nursing, Bachelor of Science in Computer Science. But we also found that a significant percentage, about a quarter to a third of the students that were going into our CTC baccalaureate programs were coming from our transfer pathways. And so that's something that we're really interested in, trying to find out what the motivations for that, whether it's the 2+2 model that they're particularly interested in, whether it's being able to stay close to home, the familiarity with their existing college. So we're doing quite a bit of work right now to try and understand that particular route anyway. It's not a significant number of students, but it is, because our baccalaureates are still growing, but it is a notable percentage of the students that do enroll in our bachelor's degrees.
Summer, thanks so much. And thanks for letting us put you on the spot here as well. I think we're going to go ahead and maybe do one more question. There's a couple of general questions that are coming through about overall percentage of transfer rates or completion outcomes. And I'm going to go ahead and just generally ask my colleagues, Aria and Rebecca, to speak to what else folks can find in the report with those details.
Yeah, in the report, we have an analysis of the transfer student graduation rates within 4 years after they've transferred, and we have that compared to the 6-year graduation rate of direct entry students who enter right after high school. So those would include some of those running start students as well, who might transfer their credits. And so we have that aspect included in the report, and we have that further broken down by race and ethnicity, and there is some variation there.
Okay. I want to say thank you so much to Aria and Rebecca. I would encourage folks to dig into the report, and if you have additional questions and want to connect with our research team, you are welcome to reconnect with us. Again, we will send out these slides as well as contact information as part of the follow-up. That concludes this particular section, but not the webinar. And so we're going to make a couple transitions here on slides and speakers. What I am excited to share a little bit more about is, of course, while you've just heard this research and deep analysis level that focuses on specific transfer degrees that we have in Washington State, we know that in practice, it's really important for us to context that and consider the ways that students live full and busy lives as full students, as transfer students. And so we know that characteristics like their lived experiences, their identities, perhaps even where they live and choose to study and can study within this state in terms of geography, play an important role alongside the steep curricular journey and the rigorous academic programs that they're engaged with. And so recognizing this, the second half of today's program focuses on this sort of notion of what's beyond a transfer degree itself, and what are the ways we can really consider supporting transfer efforts in our regions, at the state level, at our institutions, as partners and collaborators who are all working to advance transfer student success. And so in order to do that, we have a second report that's available called Beyond Transfer Degrees, Opportunities for Future Learning. It's just been linked in the chat. That really highlights kind of the cultural components of transfer in our state, including the infrastructure and systems in place that support transfer. While I'm not going to dive into all of those different entities and collaborative places in this portion, what I want to do is provide kind of the high-level practical takeaways of the things to know that we are working toward in our state. And so in our state, the responsibility to support transfer students is shared. It's shared across sectors, maybe public and private, and 2-year and 4-year institutions, who we mean by sectors, different institutions, our colleges and our universities, organizations. We've got nonprofits who are doing great work in our state to support transitions and transfer students, and of course, agencies like WSAC. We also know that right now in this moment, there's widespread consensus that really focuses on the need to do more work to understand student experiences. We know that how a student creates understanding about transfer degrees, their coursework, makes decisions about moving institutions, that is a vital perspective and piece of the puzzle that we're excited to continue learning, and we think can really impact what decisions and practices we make over time. And then I also want to acknowledge that we know that institutions lead this work caring for their students. And so we might see pairs of institutions or groups of institutions who are really developing specific partnerships to advise students more effectively and efficiently, to establish consistent points of connection, and to foster trust across institutions. We know that institutions are different and do things differently with different processes. And there are real efforts happening in our states to demystify those or to streamline those and to think about how students might understand or not understand those complexities. Transfer reports at WSAC originated about 20 years ago, mandated by the legislature. And so when we look back over 20 years, in 20 years, transfer in our state, just by nature of partnerships, has become a lot more robust. We've captured some of sector perspectives about how that has transitioned over time in the report, so I'd really invite you to dig in and look at some of those quotes. But we know that transfer continues to evolve in service of transfer students. And we also think that, of course, this sets up our foundation. We can do more to understand and implement strategies that are responsive to students and student experiences when it's driven by data, whether that's formal research or evaluation and analysis and assessment practices. And so over the last couple of years, there have been some real clear consensus pieces that our sectors and our partners have come together to identify. These are the areas that we hope to continue growing into as a state. And we also recognize that there's some work being done in these areas already. And so it's not only opportunities for future, some of these are opportunities to continue building and ideating and getting better at. The first one on this list is identifying the transition challenges, including student decision factors, to really understand the impact that those decisions and their factors have on transfer. Knowing the pathways that students took helps us understand the ways that, the impact that transfer has at the juncture of earning an associate's degree and transitioning to new institutions in the example of vertical transfer. And including the perspectives of students who both did and did not transfer could really provide us insights into the resources and supports that could be created, changed, or transformed. Second is evaluating student supports in the transfer process. We know that some of our institutions have created student-centered resources, really clear degree pathway maps and advising to help that transition across institutions, and understanding what features and assets of those resources students find the most helpful could help us adopt and scale better practices into the future. The third is exploring gaps in enrollment and completion by demographic factors. You've just heard some of our most recent transfer reports have included the evaluation of transfer by demographic factors like race, ethnicity, gender, and income. And continuing to examine these patterns of enrollment and completion across transfer degrees, transfers to new institutions, and completion of those bachelor's degrees, it remains important to identifying strategies to address equity gaps. And we also think that additional factors such as a student's proximity to institutions and regional student needs could help provide some really key insights into this as well. A fourth opportunity is to continue situating transfer within and outside of traditional transfer degree pathways. We know that students earn college credits from many sources, perhaps a dual credit student in high school, or a journey that takes them in and out of multiple colleges and universities. Understanding why students move across institutions and how students make those decisions to transfer, where to transfer, why to transfer, could really help provide insights into the continual improvement practices that we know is responsive to student needs and realities. And then the fifth one on here is really to continue studying the impact and efficacy of existing policies. If you're not familiar with any of those that are on your screen, reverse transfer, the Washington 45 or BAS degrees, which are bachelor's degrees offered at our community technical colleges, those are defined and linked in the report. And there is some study of these, and in the same way that already exists, and in the same way we've alluded to, there's an opportunity always to think about what learning in one area could look like in another, or what scale and context looks like. And so that's why we continue to call these pieces out. I'm ahead of myself on the slide transfer, so I apologize. I think that after hearing this information, it might be really natural that you're wondering, well, where do we go from here? And so those 5 opportunities that we highlighted, they're not owned by any one entity. We've shared that transfer is really kind of collaborative and partnership based in our state. And in fact, if you're part of a team or an institution who's doing work in any of those intersectional areas, we would love to learn more and really have a conversation to chat and discuss and how to support your work. Holding all of that, I have the honor of introducing our panelists who are going to be sharing perspectives, on transfer student success. So these might include research, current research, learning opportunities that demonstrate putting into practice some of these directions that we've just shared, or just more insights into how folks are supporting transfer students in our state. And so with that, I'm really pleased to introduce my colleagues from the State Board for Community and Technical Colleges, Summer and Noah, the Council of Presidents, Julie, and the Independent Colleges of Washington, Sheila. Each panelist is going to share how they're advancing transfer student success efforts. And so Noah and Summer, I will turn it over to you to begin.
Great. Thank you so much, Abby. First off, hello, everyone. My name is Noah Overby. I'm a policy research associate at the State Board for Community and Technical Colleges. Summer, you want to introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, thank you. I'm Summer Kennison, and I'm the Director for Policy Research at the State Board.
All right, Abby, perfect. You advanced for us. Okay, so just a little bit about the State Board. We are a state agency representing the 34 public community and technical colleges in Washington. The community and technical colleges serve several different student populations. So that includes students pursuing non-credit classes and certificates to upgrade skills or for personal enrichment, basic education for adults, where students are studying language training or earning a high school credential or equivalent, as well as workforce certificates and degrees, can't speak, designed to get students directly into the workforce. And of course, lastly, we provide academic transfer degrees. So those are designed to transfer to a bachelor's program and fulfill the first 2 years of a 4-year program. And that's basically what we've been talking about thus far. 43% of students enrolled in fall 2023 in the community college system in Washington were in an academic transfer program. Next slide. So one thing that we've been working on is a transfer dashboard. SPCTC's earlier transfer dashboard uses a retired data source. We've been developing a new one that uses our data warehouse and National Student Clearinghouse data. So what can we observe in this new resource? The goal of the dashboard is to help our research team and our colleges to understand trends in transfer from CTCs to various sectors and institutions, trends in outcomes after students transfer. For example, how many students earn a bachelor's degree after they've made that transition. We'll also look at trends in program alignment. So colleges can see, for example, are there engineering students completing engineering degrees? Student demographics as well, such as race, ethnicity, gender, whether students earn a degree before transfer. So where are we currently with this project? We are testing a prototype of the transfer dashboard for system feedback right now. We have members from 2 of our councils and commissions participating, including the Articulation and Transfer Council and the Research and Planning Commission. And we'll use that feedback to tweak the dashboard ahead of release, which we anticipate will be this fall. Let's go to the next slide. So how will the dashboard help us? Colleges can use this data to identify strategic partnerships with transfer institutions. So a few opportunities that come to mind are reverse transfer, as well as supporting students in specific transfer degrees and informing advising practices, both pre and post transfer. Some stakeholder feedback that we've received so far has been really positive. One reviewer said that the review has helped me think about the transfer partnerships that I'll be spending time on and has made me think about how we might better utilize CTC link coding, which is our information system, to more effectively document students on pathways through transfer. So with that, I will pass things to Summer.
Thanks, Noah. One of the areas that we're kind of prioritizing some of our research around transfer students is looking at transfer employment outcomes. So what happens now with the CTC system is if students complete a degree, whether it's a transfer degree or an associate's degree, and they don't re-enroll anywhere else, we do get employment outcome data for them from our state, so it's accurate data. It comes from students' financial records through their tax returns. And so we know a lot about what happens to students who don't re-enroll in transfer degrees. But once they re-enroll at a receiving institution, we then kind of lose touch with their employment outcomes because those students' employment outcomes now essentially belong to the receiving institution. And so we haven't really had the information that we need to be able to think about how we advise our students in transfer pathways in thinking about how transfer is going to lead to employment. So one of the things we're doing right now is we're partnering with the Council of Presidents to look at the transfer students that leave our CTCs and transfer into our Washington public four-year institutions to really think about what sort of metrics we can use with this complicated employment outcome data to evaluate how the transfer pathway may influence employment outcomes for students. And how the different components of transfer as students move toward the workforce might influence employment rate, earnings potential in the short term and the long term, industry sector, regions, those kinds of things. Next slide. So what these metrics are intended to do is really help us get more information, first of all, for students, to help them understand how transfer pathways and choices might affect their employment outcomes. And this will be for the students that we know are intending to take that transfer degree and transfer promptly, but also students who might be in a transfer pathway but aren't really sure if they really want to go on to a bachelor's degree, for them to be able to see some of that economic and social mobility evidence of the benefits of completing a prompt transfer and that bachelor's degree. This will help our CTCs and the receiving institutions as public four years better advise transfer students on what they need to do to make the most of their experiences in their transfer pathway to reach their employment goals, and also help us think about some strategic solutions and partnerships that would really have meaningful, there's some meaningful changes and improvements to the employment outcomes for our transfer students. So we're really excited about this. This is a metrics and development over the course of the 25-26 year, and then we'll be testing some of those out and then starting to incorporate them in our data and with our longitudinal data, both with WSAC, with the receiving four institutions, as well as the CTC system. Thanks. Oh, and this is our contact information. If you want to reach us, it's here. The only thing I will say is I often hear that I'm not getting emails because my last name is difficult to spell. So just keep an eye on that. But if you don't hear from me within a couple of days, go to Noah and he'll make sure that I pick it up.
Summer and Noah, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our next panelist, Julie with Council of Presidents.
Thanks, Abby. Good morning, everybody. I'm Julie Garber. I'm the Director of Policy and Academic Affairs with the Council of Presidents. So the Council of Presidents is an association of Washington's public universities. And so we are led by the presidents of the 6 Washington public universities. And we work through a consensus model across our sector, where we identify policies and practices and represent the sector on behalf of all the institutions here in the state of Washington. Next slide. I just want to always say when we start out with our transfer students, because sometimes I think the misperception is that our institutions are not engaged around transfer, and that's quite the opposite. So we always want to be really clear that we want Washington students to come. So if they are thinking about a bachelor's degree, we are welcoming them to our universities and work closely with our community college partners to streamline and make those paths as efficient as possible. We also know, as some of the research has already presented, that students who transfer from one of Washington's community technical colleges really have similar outcomes as those who come to us directly from high school. So they are a great part of our communities, and we are very excited to have them. And we are a leader, our sector in particular is a leader in the nation for when students come to us and we complete them. So we rank high across the whole entire country for completion and successful outcomes of transfer students coming to us from the Washington community colleges. Next slide, please. So I think, much of the research is often focused around the academic 2-year degrees. We participate in all of those statewide transfer degrees, but as so much in higher education has evolved, so has transfer. And so our institutions are looking at pathways, not just at the state level, but the regional and local levels as well. So many of our institutions have particular articulation agreements with individual community technical colleges around programs that may align to specific majors to that university. All of our institutions do transfer in professional technical credit, either through the DTA or the AST, but there are also other pathways in which we do that. Many of our institutions transfer in other technical degrees. So those would not have been identified in those reports, but these would be other pathways. Some of Central Washington University, for example, also offers a BAS degree. We have pathways for students who may begin, or individuals who may begin and have some time in apprenticeships, and also through academic credit for prior learning. So there's lots of ways that we transfer in credit through these paths that are not just through the statewide transfer degrees. And we also are continuing to, each institution and across our sector, looking at transfer data so we can be informed when we're making these policy decisions. Thanks, Abby. So some of the work that's emerging across our sector is our institutions are really engaging in direct admissions or guaranteed admissions for transfer students within their regions. So you'll see this as a common thread throughout all of the Washington universities, and they are really looking at their local level. And so these are some of the examples. So within the U of W institutions, what they are looking at is direct admission to major. That means when a transfer student comes in, they are directly admitted to their major. And this really works to change some of the historical work we've done around making sure that students are major ready and getting into their major. And it also helps with the time to degree. And we are not only just doing that, but also making sure that we have those wraparound services through advising and financial aid and all those other things to support that student holistically. This is similar at Central Washington University with their partnership around Yakima Valley College and a broader support with those students who just earn a DTA from any Washington Community College. And then Washington State University highlighting WSU Everett and also WSU Vancouver, who have relationships with key institutions that predominant transfer students come from and working into those programs. Next slide, please. Building on that work, Western Washington University is in the process this fall, working with multiple community colleges in their area around direct guaranteed admissions to majors. The Evergreen State College, who has been a leader around transfer credit for decades, continues its amazing work, offering multiple pathways, and then also looking at students with a technical degree and the upside down transfer option. And the upside down transfer option, kind of like how it sounds. So generally for a bachelor's degree, student comes in and if you were typical, this is not actually typical, but they predominantly take a general education and they do their major. They do a mix in the first 2 years. And so what an upside down degree is it just turns that degree upside down. And the idea is that when these students are coming out these technical degrees, that those are their major. And so then they complete out or round out their general education or institutional requirements. So it helps continue on that time to degree. And Eastern, again, has had a long program as well through Destination Eastern that is focused particularly with their Spokane colleges and Columbia Basin College, which are strong local partnerships with those universities. Next slide, please. I have one more. I don't know. Thanks.
Thanks, Julie. I know it's always hard to remember where our slide decks end and the next begin. I did it too. Sheila, you are our final panelist, and welcome you to share on behalf of the ICWs.
I know.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Abby.
right here.
And just thanks really quickly to WSAC for providing the opportunity to share about how our member campuses support transfer students. So Independent Colleges of Washington is an association that represents 9 not-for-profit private independent campuses across the state. You can see a list of our our member campuses there on the bottom of the slide. And just to start the conversation off, I just want to point out that our member campuses enroll a majority of Washington students. Next slide, please. So this map shows the locations of our campuses along with branch campuses and other sites that are associated with the work that we do. About 80% of Washingtonians live within 50 miles of an ICW member campus, and this is especially important for transfer students who may be place-bound, as our member campuses may be their best option for continuing their higher education journey and earning that bachelor's degree. Collectively, about half of the students identify as students of color. 40% are from families living on low incomes and are either or state and federal eligible for financial aid. And 20% of students enrolled in our campuses are the first in their families to attend college. And about a third are transferring in credits, and that includes dual enrollment credits such as Running Start, AP, IB, and those sorts of things. But as was shown in the report earlier, a good chunk of those students are coming from our CTC partners. Next slide, please. So our member campuses support their students, their transfer students in various ways. And this particular website on our website lists several resources for students. So all of our campuses have admissions counselors who are dedicated to working with transfer students. All of our campuses participate in statewide transfer agreements. We offer all of our students small class sizes, strong academic advising, career and community engagement opportunities to support their personal and professional development. And also wraparound services that include academic support, basic needs, and behavioral health. So addressing the whole student. And next slide, please. At Independent Colleges of Washington, we seek to partner with our member campuses to help them support transfer students holistically, which means addressing all of these needs. So we see students as whole people. They have academic needs, they have social cultural needs, and of course they have financial needs as well. Just want to talk a little bit about where we see ourselves in the state landscape on transfer. So statewide, as I mentioned, all of our member campuses participate in statewide agreements, all of them except the direct transfer agreement. Our campus faculty and staff work whenever there's a change to a statewide degree or maybe a new degree being developed, a statewide transfer degree. Our member campuses are involved in those conversations as well. In addition, we've been working to build upon the guided pathways that community and technical colleges have, and particularly through a grant that I'll talk about in just a second. But we've been working with regional transfer partners to put out a uniform articulation agreement for psychology in particular, because number one, it's a high demand degree. Lots of students transfer into it. All of our campuses offer the psychology bachelor's degree, and it's often just a simple matter of taking within the DTA, taking a few specific courses and then being directly admitted to the psychology program at the bachelor's level. If I could go to the next slide, please. So this chart shows the statewide transfer agreements that our member campuses participate in. You can see that several of our campuses have robust engagement with different transfer degrees and transfer pathways, including some that also participate in the reverse transfer agreement. Next slide, please. So again, kind of stepping back and talking about how we address transfer holistically. So I mentioned that we have been working with a grant. The Teagle Foundation and Arthur Vining Davis Foundations have provided us with funding for the last 5 years during which we have been, number one, working on that articulation agreement for psychology, but also working on sort of local challenges and local problems that individual campuses can address within their regional context. So we refer to these as regional transfer partner teams. Several of our member campuses have partnered with their local community and technical college partner. They work either over the course of 1 or 2 years. They start with a self-assessment of their partnerships, the types of partnerships on several different domains. And the graphic that you see here is from Ye and Wetstein's work around categorizing transfer partnerships. So we use that framework as a self-assessment tool. The teams can jointly, faculty and staff from both partner institutions, determine what level they're at or what type of partnership they have on domains, including curriculum, advising, financial aid, and data sharing. And then they figure out where they want to focus their efforts and come up with an improvement plan that they execute over the next several months, and then do a follow-up assessment at the end. And so this work has produced a number of positive developments, including things like enhanced scholarships for transfer students, advising guides that are co-created by the faculty in similar departments, so psychology, biology, English, and so forth, between the two institutions, and as well as opportunities for other forms of cross-connection or cross-pollination. So having the bachelor faculty from the bachelor institution come to courses or come to classes at the community college to talk with them. Next slide, please. And I'll just mention very quickly that our association has also been working on building a scholarship fund for students. And this started 3 years ago with just under $100,000. This fall, we will be awarding about $350,000 to in scholarships to transfer students who meet these criteria. And here's what's next on the horizon for us. Just very briefly, we're continuing conversations with our community technical college partners, looking at ways to improve and streamline transfer through the items that you see here on the slide, which I'm happy to talk more in person. I know we're running out of time, so if you have any questions about these, please do reach out and talk to me. And thank you so much.
Sheila, thank you so much for rounding out our panel. At the time we are in our webinar, I just have the honor of saying thank you. We are so delighted that so many of you joined us today. At our most, we had about 200 folks here on the call. I also want to say thank you to Aria, Rebecca, Summer, Noah, Julie, Sheila, and my colleague Amy, who's been working behind the scenes to make this all happen. We know it takes a village, and frankly, it takes a transfer student village. And so we hope you'll continue to join us in thinking about and working on how we built this strong foundation to keep improving transfer work in Washington. We're really grateful that you were here with us. We hope you have a great rest of your day. And thanks again. Thanks to our panelists, and thanks to everyone who came to listen.